Audioaddict. I've met the occasional person who doesn't like music, which always horrifies me. What do you mean? I question with the veracity of a sanctified bona fide believer meeting their biggest non-believer ever. It's time for me to bring out the convincing material to try and change their mind. The answers cross a gamut of how they just don't have the energy, inclination, or time to expand their musical horizons. They let radio stations dictate their music, and sometimes don't even react to the music they hear. I'm just not a person who resonates with music, these particular people say, as if music is impossible to connect with. It must be a sad existence to find yourself not enjoying audio. Often these haters of music aren't listening to podcasts and audiobooks either. They just have no desire to tickle their ears. And what do you say to these non-believers? Have you tried cleaning your ears? Have you tried unclogging the emotions in your heart? Have you tried being human lately? When I meet people who say they hate reading, that situation feels easier to parse through. Have you found the correct genre? Maybe you haven't discovered authors you like more than others. Has forced reading in school given you soft trauma? At least people are a bit more honest with reading. Some just don't like to read words like this essay. They think it's boring, or they aren't charmed by my robust vernacular. Reading feels like work, not a relaxing pastime or a place where they can board the imagination train. Even those who don't watch much television get a pass here. These days I hate how often I find myself glued to my television, iPad, or iPhone, streaming shows on repeat. I refuse to get a second television because it feels gratuitous as a single man living alone. If I want to watch TV, I do it in the living room. My bedroom is a place to relax, sleep, and constantly shift piles of clothes around. Music has always been an essential part of my life. My mother had a giant CD collection, and I had gotten familiar with artists like Madonna, Kate Bush, and Tori Amos at an early age. I knew about Running Up That Hill before the whole world did. I was also known for singing along loudly to music. It took till college for that part of my identity to be scrubbed to the conformity of not singing along to one's iPod. I must have thought that a music producer would jump out of a bush and sign me to a major label. My grade school didn't have much of a choir, but we did have singing practice, where we would practice the music for the school mass before the school mass. Think of it as football practice before the big Friday game. But instead of throwing footballs, we would make sure we knew what songs we would be singing. Even at a young age, it felt like a waste of time. I recently saw my classmate Bridget, who told me she only got one demerit because the girl next to her during singing practice kept talking to her. Mrs. Zingales, one of the most excellent teachers at the school, reacted very poorly to these hushed whispers and wrote them up. I'm genuinely shocked, I told Bridget after hearing her story. The only memories I have of Miss Zingales is that she always had those sour cherry candies that she would hand out to students who did well. In pre-COVID times, Ms. Zingales would have buckets of sour cherries that students would compete for, like seagulls with a brown bag on the beach. The process evoked a kind priest passing out bread to the local peasants. My singing prowess became well known in grade school during the Stations of the Cross. For those who didn't have a decently fledged Catholic upbringing, the Stations of the Cross is when Jesus took the cross and carried it to where he passed away. Editor's note, I was informed that passed away might be downplaying what happened. My school would put on a reproduction of the Stations of the Cross featuring actors playing the iconic roles of Jesus, Mary Magdalene, and Mother Mary. There was always drama about who was going to be cast as Jesus. One year, a classmate who couldn't act got the role solely due to how he looked like Jesus. Specifically, he had a six-pack. Jesus bears all, as we recall. It's crucial he looks ripped on the crucifix in his final moments. When I was younger, I always felt quite entitled to my solo in this performance, the final verse of Mary Did You Know. It was as if the minister or monk who had written that song had always envisioned me closing it with a harrowing, baritone, "Oh Mary, did you know, oh." The impression I always got from those who witnessed the program was that my solo definitely made Mary know. Mary couldn't not know when I was executing the solo. In high school, I joined the chorus immediately and was one of 60 vocalists. Most of the music we did in the chorus was related to the school being a Catholic school. I was always envious of public high school choirs who got to sing pop numbers and music that was from the last 20 years. In the fall, we would prepare for our winter showcase, filled with dreary religious Christmas songs. There was no room for a jazzy Jingle Bells or a flirty Must Be Santa. We would do a Carol of the Bells that would befit a Christmas murder and some ancient Christmas music that even the most fervent Christmas fan wasn't able to identify. In the spring, we finally exercised some contemporary music, but it was usually old show tunes and obscure musicals that even the hardened theater lovers would not have heard of, or would go, "That's the song you picked?" To expand my horizons, I joined the a cappella club as a freshman. The club met for an hour after school on Mondays, and I would stick with it all 4 years of high school. There was a more exclusive a cappella club, one that involved an audition process. I auditioned my freshman year and did not get in and vowed to make everyone rue that decision. Granted, freshmen were rarely invited into the elite club, but I had this terrible habit of seeing rejection and writing off things completely. In my freshman year of college, I tried to be a resident assistant and a tour guide and was rejected from both. Most people would try again as a sophomore, but I refused. They had a chance to have me, and now they would be forever unable to have me. Younger Matt must have assumed they'd feel that sting for the rest of their lives. Wait, Matt Hribar isn't applying? We really want him, though. The tour guide was a slap in the face, mainly because of what I do for a living. Many tour guides couldn't successfully tour a family through a playground, yet I was denied the opportunity. I like to imagine that they thought I would be too truthful. Over here is our cafeteria, tour guide Matt would say to prospective students and their families. The food is terrible, so we recommend always having a fridge during your time here. Next up, let's see a cinder block dormitory and convince you that American dorm life is simply the best. My rivalry between the a cappella club and the elite a cappella club blossomed during my senior year of high school. I formed a third group, a show choir half inspired by rivalry and half inspired by glee. True Gleeks know that glee clubs are founded on revenge and betrayal. So when we performed a jazzy rendition of Telephone as a glee club, it brought down the house. The elite a cappella club members watched on in jealousy as they performed outdated pop numbers like Brown Eye Girl. The drama carried over into the regular chorus. Quite often, the tenors of the chorus would make fun of the baritone bass section in a reverse bullying experience. The school trips were always hassles. One student's mom, who I'll call Miss Robinson, was hands down the worst chaperone on our spring break choir trips. Miss Robinson allowed her sociopathic son to run the court with some chorus members. She enjoyed being the cool mother who let her son and other boys run around the hotel after mandated curfew. While the rest of us had taped down doors to prevent us from successful sneaks, Miss Robinson would retape her son's door in the morning. All these dramas sucked out my desire to join any musical organization again. My first concert was Christina Aguilera with Destiny's Child as an opener. I had won the tickets at a youth spaghetti eating competition at a county fair. I have no memory of the concert, but I assume we had a fun time. Was it okay for my parents to allow a child to go to a concert that young? But then again, should I have been in a spaghetti eating contest? The 90s were undoubtedly wild. The earliest concert I remember seeing is Sugar Ray at the House of Blues with my mom and younger sister. I was somewhat familiar with Sugar Ray's hits, but most of the concert was just me vibing out to music at a young age. I became more interested in attending shows and volunteering at festivals as I became older. What's the best concert you've ever been to? This is a difficult question for me to answer. If we're talking about the best performers, the best shows, and the best musician acting in a live setting, it's easy to answer. Suzanne Soonfor, my favorite artist of all time, came stateside in 2019. Seeing her sing her way through a piano, a synthesizer, and a guitar, all solo and alone, was beautiful. It was also one of those rare concerts where I loved the opening artist and followed up with listening to more from the opener post-show. A fun little moment was when Suzanne asked the crowd where attendees were from. I, being weirdly pious, was silent. But my mom kicked in with a, "Cleveland!" Suzanne turned to our direction and asked, "Like the Family Guy character?" In this moment, I realized that perhaps Cleveland was not the international hub I had believed it to be. Lady Gaga is my favorite pop artist. Her showmanship, flexibility, craft, iconic history, visual performances, aesthetics, evolution, vocals, choreography, it's everything that I encapsulate. The Killers always sound better live than the album. They're one of the few bands/artists who have always delivered on each album and never supply less than perfect. Another favorite includes Tori Amos, who can perform on 2 different pianos simultaneously with that smoky alternative vibe. I've seen U2 twice. Both shows were energetic with anthem power. My favorite DJ in concert was Alice in Wonderland, who mixed her music with instruments and live vocals during a compelling and trippy set. But if you ask me, what's the best concert you've ever been to, with the implication that the show was unforgettable, the answer is different. My mother got free tickets for Danity Kane and offered them to me. I took my friend Deanna down to the House of Blues, excited to hear the girl group behind a favorite hit single of mine, Damaged, and other various songs. The downtown Cleveland House of Blues can fit a couple thousand. The first floor is devoted chiefly to a mosh pit. I have never before or since seen an emptier floor, maybe 50 people or so, all of us pressed close to the stage. I like a good view at a concert, but I usually don't have the energy or attitude to bulldoze my way to the front. So being this close to Danity Kane felt undeserved. I was certainly unworthy of being this close to the cult's upper echelon. I was surrounded by tried and true Danity Kane fans. Who was I but someone utilizing a free ticket? The show commenced in a fog, which in the balcony would have been dazzling, but up close was like getting pepper sprayed. The girls sauntered in costumes that mimicked youth gymnastics competitions. The prop budget seemed to be $20. The only props were baubles and those ribbons on strings. There was no need for expensive accoutrements when the girls sang their hearts off. "Who wants to hear more about my new album?" one of the Danity Kane girls asked, which got a giant rouse out of the small but tight fan base. As the songs continued, my friend Deanna and I realized we were the only ones who didn't know any lyrics. Around us, people sang and chanted as if ordinary people were familiar with the Danity Kane album's deep cuts. We were so close to the stage that I knew the girls could see our faces when they walked by. We were not masked in concert hall darkness. So I began to ad-lib and pretend to mouth the lyrics because I didn't want the Danity Kane girls to feel badly that I was the only person in the venue who didn't know the music. In my cloud of anxiety, I thought about what might have happened if a Danity Kane member saw me silent among singing fans. Would they stop the show, even go so far as to cancel the show? Would a quiet me in the front be the last nail in the coffin? Would they retire altogether? Maybe they would get into a fight? "It's okay that he didn't know," one of the members would cry in upset. "Not everyone has to know every single damn song of ours." "He was in the front row," another member chimed in. "Everyone was in the front row," another Danity Kane member would snarl before shattering their wine glass on the floor. There is one concert that I will never forget. Even if my mind goes and my body barely supports itself one day, I will forever remember Forever Your Girl Paula Abdul. Picture it, the 2018 Paula Abdul concert live at the MGM Northfield Park. For those unfamiliar with the suburban rural Ohio casino scene, MGM Northfield is a slots-only casino that hosts many concerts and comedians, all usually in the C to D list range. To enter, one has to walk through a waft of nicotine smoke and the scent of well-level liquor. My mother had won free Paula Abdul tickets, so I joined her for an evening of 80s hits. I didn't really have any expectations going into the show. When I don't have expectations, I settle on an okay performance. Knowing that people like me were present, Paula Abdul refused to surrender to just okay. The show opened with a bang, featuring a biopic of Paula Abdul's life and how she was a cheerleader. Cue the pom-poms. Another sequence involved her having bad dreams on a raised mattress while it stormed. She did a Frank Sinatra tribute. All of these random things on their own seemed a little ludicrous, but altogether formed a fantastic mesh of intrigue and entertainment. The sets looked like they were created by high schoolers for an all-school assembly about drug abuse. One set was designed to look like a dirty alley that not even a heroin addict would find charming, displaying graffiti that said, "Scat Cat was here." Straight Up was performed while dancers strutted around on ladders, and Paula stood around the ladders in that technique artists do, where it looks like they're moving because everyone around them is moving. The same thing happened during Cold Hearted, where she was grabbed, repelled, spun, twisted, sashayed, and was catapulted in every direction you could think of by the dancers around her while remaining statuesque. There was a 5-minute homage to Paula Abdul's time on American Idol. It was as if they had aired one of those best Paula Abdul American Idol moments videos you would see on Facebook. There was another scene which mimicked the plane injury Paula supposedly had, but is not on record anywhere. To mix these concepts together was not just a jarring biological feature, it was like being on acid for the first time. Paula ended the show walking among the crowd, but you couldn't see her because she is so short. You would just hear her belted promise, "I'm forever your girl," and guesstimated where in the audience she was coming from. Another favorite MGM Northfield show was when we saw Men at Work. You might be wondering, why does that band sound familiar? You might be familiar with the song Down Under, with the flute solo and the iconic line, "I come from the land down under." It's quintessential 80s with a bit of flair and pompousness. This is one of those shows where you don't know most of the music, and you're waiting for the encore to hear the things you're familiar with. However, the most eye-catchy moment of the night wasn't the singer, the lighting, or anything you would immediately think of when thinking of a concert. "I can't stop watching that tambourine player," I whispered to my mother, who immediately stifled a chuckle. "Oh, I'm only watching the tambourine player," my mother confirmed, proving once again I am my mother's son. Commanding the stage in a fury of sound, flavor, and passion was a tambourine player who could make the most minimal instrument maximal in usage. She slapped the tambourine with every body part she could imagine. She even traded it out for maracas and other shaking sound devices. Her peak moment for me was when she held the maracas by the bulbous section and proceeded to shake them. I really appreciated her audaciousness. "She has to be sleeping with the lead singer," my mother's friend Michelle explained. "She was super outrageous up there." Indeed, a quick Google search revealed that she was married to the one remaining member of Men at Work, and we all cheered like frat brothers who had discovered extra beer in the fridge. The most aggressive crowd I have ever seen at a concert was when I went to see the Black Keys. It was shocking because I didn't expect fans of the Black Keys to be dicks. The band is bluesy, rock, and chill blended together. You'd think people who want to see the Black Keys would be relaxed hippies just looking for the nearest Vegemelt sandwich. The concert was at Blossom, a venue that would strike any Northeast Ohioan with horror. The actual Blossom stage is a gorgeous amphitheater that acoustically wins many awards for its sound design. However, the parking lot is in reality fields of grass that are designed as laissez-faire. There are some parking attendants, but they're usually young high school and college kids who do not get paid enough to deal with parking control. These wild fields of choose-your-own-adventure are amplified by the fact that Blossom shows are notorious for their pre-game culture. Coolers and six-packs get pulled out of the car, forming a little party around your vehicle. This pre-game palooza prepares you for the upcoming slog, half a mile to the venue to see the show. Imagine driving your car across grassy fields, unsure of where to go, while surrounded by drunks. Even the Walking Dead characters had better transportation circumstances. My mother, Monica, our family friend Olivia, and I arrived at Blossom in backup traffic so bad even Los Angeles would reel in horror. We finally turned into a side field, thinking we were moments away from absolution. Our slow crawl turned into a standstill. We popped our heads out of the car like curious prairie dogs. "Let's go investigate," I told Monica. "I'll tell people behind us to get back," Olivia nodded, using her background as a teacher to be a parking logistics coordinator. The three of us left my mother alone in her car. I moved forward, ready to write down a license plate of a vehicle blocked a clear-through exit. I wasn't sure what I was going to see. That's part of the reason I went to investigate. "What are you doing?" some white guy with a beard cried out as I moved forward. "I'm just going to take a look." "You don't need to take a look," he aggressively snarled. I was immediately confused by the volatility. You would have thought I was trespassing on his property. Monica was a bit behind me but was coming up fast, having smelled the assholery like a shark's attraction to blood. "Where did you graduate from? Asshole Academy?" "Right here, actually, so maybe you should leave my town." I should have clapped back with, "Really? You went to school at a concert venue in the middle of a national forest?" But I was so stunned that people acted like this that I didn't have my top-notch sass prepared. I fail in this regard. Sometimes I'm significantly taken aback and unable to return witty repertoire. Monica arrived hoping to diffuse drama, only to be caught in his anger. At some point, I flipped him off and kept walking. I believed a way out was blocked, but it turned out that there was no official way out of the field. The cars had parked in such a way that there was no exit. The field and fencing blocked in this awkward row of parked cars. There was no way to fix it. Oh wait, maybe having legitimate parking? Later, after Olivia helped everyone escape, we walked to the venue up ahead. As we navigated a labyrinth of cars, we saw the man who had been rude to Monica and me. "Oh my gosh, that's him!" Olivia and my mother whipped their heads quickly as humans are apt to do. Olivia gasped upon sight. "He's with my cousin," Olivia confessed. "He's with my cousin." It was a dramatic twist you would only assume you'd seen in a Netflix series about boring straight people. How does she know him? I wondered if she was romantically intertwined with that hothead, and if so, why? I don't want to assume he was an abusive partner, but was she okay? The Black Keys themselves were great, but the crowd was a little too cracked out. I'm actually perturbed about all these people, Monica confessed. It's all in the eyes. They're really messed up. Monica might not have studied sociology like me, but she had the hunger of a sociologist. Her eyes flared up with intrigue at the slightest movements of people around us. But she also reminded me of when Homer Simpson visited the lesbian bar and noticed the lack of proper fire safety. I'm sure they're doing things safely, I said, more to ease Monica. Truthfully, some of the people around us screamed problematic situations. But Monica and I both get anxious in these situations, so I hope to batten down our emotional hatches. Moments later, a guy walked by as I was jamming out. He copied me, and I wasn't sure if it was respectful or disrespectful. I like your dancing, he cheered on. Thanks, I'm kind of an artist. What was I, an influencer at Coachella? Is that what you do? I told him more about what I did, which felt like artist adjacent. He began to look at me wide-eyed. I do marketing for a company. That's great, I genuinely remarked. Do you know what I'm scared of? My eyebrows shot up quicker than the glass elevator at the end of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. No. I wondered what could be bothering this poor white man who works in marketing and was definitely drunk, if not high, at a Black Keys concert. Have you seen that AI can do creative things? I have. It's cool. It's scary because it will take jobs away from creatives like us. This discussion was much better than the Mexicans stole our jobs narrative. The idea is that AI will do that in all sectors, but creativity has been the last hurdle, I added. But it's doing it. It's doing what you're telling it to do, I explained. No, it's making it up altogether. The man gave an example of how he had given AI the keywords Bigfoot and Art Deco. AI was able to come out with legitimate drawings of a regal Sasquatch. But humans are the ones creating the concepts, I explained. Meanwhile, my favorite Black Keys song was being played, and I was missing it to talk to some guy about his fear that creative AI would destroy livelihoods. That was the most upsetting part of this conversation. Not the chat, but the one song I wanted to hear was being drowned out by this man. But the AI wouldn't know fully original ideas, I added. It knows what Bigfoot is and what Art Deco is, but is it able to fully create something new? The man continued to worry about marketing jobs, so I remained pretty passive. He eventually had to go pee. I was so confused at what was happening, Monica said. I was standing so close, but the two of you stared into each other and didn't notice me. Was he into you? Well, I wouldn't mind that, I sighed. We decided to leave early. None of us were married to the idea of staying long just to see the Black Keys. The walk was probably just as long as the walk of shame that Cersei does in HBO's Game of Thrones, except instead of people throwing rotten fruits and a bell of shame, there was just clouds of weed and drunk yips and shouts. The rock paths had giant boulders that caused me to trip a few times, and before you assume, no, I was not drunk. I do believe whoever designed Blossom was a sadist. We soon returned to the car like a bunch of rejects. My mother was driving and came upon an intersection where cars were pulled to the side of the road. Red and blue lights flashed. It looked like we were stumbling upon an emergency. What is happening? My mother said on behalf of us all. A man in poorly tinted neon was standing in the middle of the road. Left or right? The man snapped. What? My mother didn't realize he was acting in place of a stop sign. Pick a damn side. Where's the blinker? My mom quickly put her right blinker on. There we fucking go, the man snarled as we turned right. I could see a sheriff's name on his uniform. Who is that prick? My mother asked moments later as we continued on our journey. We joined in on the insanity from that officer of the law, but it was Olivia who tied the pieces together. I think he was part of the park security team. I don't think he's a real cop, Olivia said in a Sherlock Holmes deduction. He can go investigate some roadkill, my mother sassily clapped back, causing Olivia, Monica, and I to howl with laughter.